You are listening to Spotlight Sessions with Justin Bamforth. The program provides an inside look at the creative field through exclusive conversations with industry professionals. Every episode is recorded live each month in the Adobe Creative Career Discord. Check out the show links to learn more and join for free. This episode was previously recorded before a live listening audience. My next guest, Rafael Espinal, was first elected to public office at age 26, becoming the youngest elected official in New York State at that time. First as a New York State Assembly member, then as a New York City Council member. But today, Rafael is the president and executive director of the Freelancers Union, where he leads efforts to modernize benefits, expand rights, and build sustainable support systems for the independent workforce. Now, through this organization, he's helped expand the landmark Freelance Isn't Free law to New York, Illinois, and California, creating the first non-payment protection in the U.S. for freelance workers. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, Rafael also fought for unemployment assistance for independent workers, successfully championed the creation of New York's first free legal clinic dedicated to them. He later helped launch the Freelancers Hub, which is a co-working and resource space in Industry City, Brooklyn. And as a lifelong Brooklynite and the son of Dominican immigrant union members and freelancers, Rafael remains deeply committed to ensuring independent workers are not only protected, but supported and heard in today's economy. So I thought he would be the perfect guest for all of us freelancers out here doing our thing, knowing there's someone in our corner ready to go to bat for us when we need it the most. So Rafael Espinal, welcome to the show. I am glad you are here.
Thanks for having me, Justin. It's a pleasure.
Now, sometimes freelancers feel like they're all alone trying to make ends meet. And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on, to shine a light on your organization, learn what it's all about, talk about how people can get involved, and maybe help spread the word. So let's start with your journey, because it's very impressive. How did you go from serving in elected office to leading the Freelancers Union?
Yeah, well, it really took for a lot of things to align, and I think first and foremost, of course, it was my passion for the creative workforce. You know, I consider myself to be a creative. I grew up wanting to be a filmmaker. I also thought about being able to find time to write creative novels, tells creative stories. So when I got the opportunity to get involved in politics and run for office, it became clear to me early on that government wasn't doing enough to speak to the creative workforce, to speak to the independent workforce. A lot of the conversations that we were in mostly focused on uh, Wall Street and the brick and mortar Main Street, right? But the independent worker oftentimes was left out of any opportunities when it came to, um, let's say, programs that created subsidies or benefits to help support a freelancer throughout their careers. All those programs oftentimes were focused on what we would consider the traditional labor workforce, or traditional business and corporation economy. So once I saw that, I made it my mission to think about how do I, as an elected official, use my powers in government to start speaking to the needs of freelancers. And funny enough, as I was having, I guess these thoughts, this organization called the Freelancers Union approached my office with a bill to create the Freelancers and Free Act, which is the nation's first non-payment protection law that existed and was created in New York City while I was serving the New York City Council. So when the opportunity came later down in my career to lead this organization, I just thought it all made sense. How do I combine my passion for the creative workforce, for the independent workforce, with my knowledge of policy and government and serving people?
Yeah, let's get into that bill. The Freelance Isn't Free. What is that, and what does it do?
Yeah, so for too long, I think we all can agree that freelancers, right, from graphic designers to photographers, editors, writers, have been treated like second-class workers. They do the work, they send the invoice, and they wait, and sometimes they never get paid. And to me, and I guess to the organization, we believe that that's wage theft, plain and simple. So when I was in the city council, we agreed, myself and the union, that enough was enough, and we worked to pass the Freelancers and Free Act, which, as I mentioned, is the first law in the nation that says that if you hire a freelancer, you must have a written contract in place and you must pay within 30 days. I think we all can agree there are many companies that prefer to pay you in 60 to 90 days. So we made a law that baseline, they have to pay you within 30 days. And if they don't pay you within 30 days, they can be held accountable. Um, it also it also gave you protections when you, let's say you encounter a situation where a client is non-respondent and now you have to go to small claims court, where the city of New York will now write a letter in support of your case, which you can take to a judge and show that you have taken the appropriate measures to try to collect on your unpaid invoice. And most likely than not, now the judge would side in your favor. And when they do, because of the law, you will also be owed double damages, so double of the original invoice, and attorney fees if you have to hire any attorneys to help you throughout the process. So New York City was the first city in the country to pass such a law back in 2017, and since then we've had about half a dozen other jurisdictions put the law into place.
We mentioned earlier that this law is effective in New York, Illinois, and California. Are there any plans for it to expand from there to other states?
Absolutely, and I have to say that getting it passed into three states was a huge lift. As I mentioned, the law was first passed in the city of New York back in 2021, 2022. We began to lobby the city of Los Angeles and got it passed in the city of Los Angeles, and then we saw the city of Seattle, we saw the city of Columbus in Ohio do the same. So taking this law to a statewide level really took a lot of work and a lot of advocacy, and we were very proud when we were able to make it happen. It's only been a little over a year since these three states instituted this law. So I would say it is the beginning of a larger conversation, and I can't wait to take it to more states, because once we do, we would be able to go to the federal government and make a case on why this should be national law. And my hope is that once we take it federally, then we can see freelancers across all 50 states protected from non-payment.
Wow, that's amazing stuff. So Professor Cannon is asking again, what's the name of the law? The law is called the Freelance Isn't Free Law.
Yeah. So depending on the state you're living in, it did take on different names. So if you're in Illinois, it's called the Independent Workers Ordinance Act, and I believe it's the same name in California as well. But the original name and what we like to call it is the Freelance Isn't Free Law.
Got it. Okay. Now, does it only apply to that freelancer who is living in that state, or does it apply to, let's say, I'm a freelancer in New Jersey, but what if I was doing work for a client who lived in New York? Would that law still apply to me?
It will apply to you. So as long as the hiring party or the freelancer is based in New York, then you are protected. So if you're a freelancer, let's say living in Oregon, and you happen to contract with a client in New York City and they do not pay you on time or don't pay you at all, then you do have the power to file a complaint with the city of New York or the state of New York, and they will intervene on your behalf.
I want to get into your organization because this is just one of the things, audience, that the Freelancers Union does. But for anyone who may not be familiar, what is the Freelancers Union, and who is it for besides independent workers, like in the graphic design community or design community in general?
Sure. So we are a nonprofit organization, and we just celebrated our 30th year just a few months ago as an organization, and we were founded with the mission of being a place in which freelance workers can come to build community, have access to resources, education, and also allow us to provide one-on-one member services to freelancers who might need assistance along their freelance journey. In these 30 years, we have seen our organization grow to over 500,000 members in all 50 states. And beyond supporting freelancers with one-on-one services, we think about the bigger picture. We organize, we fight for fair laws, and we build systems of support like legal clinics, health, like access to affordable health insurance, and free co-working spaces, which is one we have in Brooklyn, to make sure that freelancers have the power in the community they need to succeed.
Does it cover all freelancers in all industries, or is it only select industries?
We support and service independent workers across all industries, right? And we look at And I guess what we've done so well is find what are the issues that all independent workers have in common? What are the challenges they all face? And we found that it's usually learning how to read and write a contract, understanding how to enforce a contract when you face a case of non-payment or maybe some intellectual property issues. We've built resources around understanding how to file your taxes and um, and connect folks to qualified CPAs to ensure that you're doing everything in a proper manner. And then we also looked at the benefit space, right? All freelancers have um, challenges when it comes to finding affordable health insurance or liability insurance or disability insurance. So we've worked to create a suite of benefits that we believe and that we vetted that would be better suited to support and service the independent worker.
Is this union free to join, or are there like membership fees to be part of it?
It's free to join. We are a nonprofit. A lot of the work that we're able to offer to the independent worker is because of government grants. So we use those grants to provide free programming like the legal clinics, right? So if you're having an issue and you want a lawyer to provide you guidance or free consultations, you're able to get access to a lawyer. We run a free co-working space thanks to a government we got thanks to a grant we received from the city of New York called the Freelancers Hub in Brooklyn. So if you're someone who's in need of space or want to get out of your house and book a free desk and be in a space where you're able to connect with fellow freelancers, we offer that. Because of the support of local government and because of the support of donations that come in through our membership, uh, who value our services, we're able to offer membership for free and our services for free.
It's funny because when I was in the corporate sector and like, talking with colleagues, we talked about, how we did freelancing off, on the side as like a part-time job. But we always kind of like bonded over the fact that, designers in particular were always like undervalued, right? Or like um, we're spending most of our time trying to justify our worth. And a lot of times we're taken advantage of. So it's, we would always think about, we should start a union, not knowing that there really was a union in place that anyone can join. I see in the chat a Gleeful Kraken happened to join about a year ago and says it's a great place for finding insurance. So let's talk about that because when you are an independent worker, you not only have to handle all of the bookkeeping and the payments and all this stuff and finding work, but you have to look for your own insurance. You have to look for the benefits that traditional employers would offer you. But when you're working for yourself, you're responsible for it. So how does the freelancers union, I guess, connect independent workers with the right resources, the right insurance companies? How does that process look?
All right, so because of the power of community, right? Because of the power of our membership, it makes it a lot easier for us to come to the table with these insurance companies and say, "Hey, listen, um, we know there is a problem within our country, right? And that is that our country still ties benefits to full-time jobs. And there is a workforce that is in desperate need of having access to affordable insurance to ensure that they have the protections they need to be able to work without the worry of getting sick, getting hurt, or losing the opportunity to work because of an illness or an injury. And we feel that the current benefit system is totally outdated, right? So we've built those partnerships with those insurance companies using the power of our community to create affordable healthcare plans. Like for example, if you go onto our website now, freelancerunion.org, you'll see that we've partnered with this company called Solo Health that have managed to figure out how to create low premium health plans. We also were able to work with Guardian to create grouped plans for insurance products like disability, right? Disability will ensure that You get paid in the instance that you get hurt, are not able to work for a certain period of time. And then you have access to other benefits like liability insurance as well, right? Just to make, because, and I know there's a lot of creative freelancers who need their COIs to be able to put on a production or to work in a certain job site. Um, and with that, our goal again, of course, is very simple, and it's to create a benefit system that follows the worker, right? And doesn't have to, and that the worker doesn't have to rely on the employer to get those benefits, right? So as a freelancer, we know you're working gig to gig. You're often maybe changing your profession, and we hope that someday that government will be able to catch up with the evolving workforce and create a system where benefits can follow you. But until then, we've done the work internally as an organization to ensure we're able to offer that to you.
So is there like a minimum requirement that you have to meet in order to be eligible for some of these plans? Like a certain like amount of working hours per se?
No, I mean you have to be dedicated to being to for the majority of your work to be 1099 independent freelance work. Um, and you simply just have to go on our site. Some of these plans require you to become a member, right? Because the hope is that the power of membership is what allows you to get access to these plans. And when you come on our site, become a member, then it opens you up to to the suite of benefits that we've been able to curate for you.
For those of you just tuning in now, we are speaking with Rafael Espinal, and we are talking about his organization, the Freelancers Union. This is really amazing stuff. I posted a bunch of links in the chat, and to those of you listening on demand, it'll be in the show notes. I encourage you to take a look at his website, freelancersunion.org. That's freelancersunion.org. And there you can find out all the information on how to join, all the resources, the benefits. I'm looking at the insurance right now, and I might have to consider this because right now, right, like in the state of New Jersey, we go to the health marketplace, and you get a lot of options, but they are so expensive, and and confusing too. So this just makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because we also partnered with this organization called Catch that helped us create a kind of like a system where you're able to plug in your unique needs as a independent worker, and then it'll auto populate what the system believes are the best plans available for you in the marketplace, right? So if you decide to go to the marketplace route, if you go on our site, you're able to see what plans work best for you and also what subsidies exist for you to help bring down the cost of those premiums as well.
There's so many cool resources in here, audience. You got to take a look at this. There is not only the insurance and benefits, but there are how-to guides for freelancers. There is a contract creator that I see right here. Let's talk about some of this stuff, especially for those new to freelancing. What are some of the biggest hurdles freelancers are facing right now?
And number one, what we constantly hear is the biggest one is getting paid on time. We actually created this neat tool called the world's longest invoice. Like if you go on our website, you'll see it on our homepage. And what we hope is that freelancers will be able to sign in and type in all of the outstanding invoices that they're owed, so that we can use those numbers to make that bigger case on a federal level on why the freelancers and free act is necessary. Um, and we found, doing our data and research, that about two-thirds of freelancers have been stiffed or have been delayed payment. And so we take that issue very seriously, and which is why that law continues to be one of our main priorities. And then second, of course, is the lack of benefits. As we just touched on, healthcare isn't affordable, and currently, right now, as we speak, the federal government is shut down because Republicans are having a tough time coming to the table to agree on what healthcare subsidies look like at the end of the year. And those are subsidies that independent workers rely on in order to bring the monthly premiums of healthcare down. Um, I would say that these are issues that are in front and center for us as an organization. But we feel I guess excited and emboldened by by the amount of activity that workers have been involved in order to um, secure and gain their rights. Right, we're seeing workers organizing across all different industry. We're seeing new laws and new platforms and new conversations happening about what fairness looks like in this economy. So I really do feel like the tide is turning, and as it turns, thanks to the work of organizations like ours, thanks to the work of workers actually organizing on the ground, I do feel that in the near future we're going to see government reacting to the reality, and that more laws and more benefits needs to be expanded and created to support the independent workforce.
From what you've seen, particularly since the pandemic, you've seen the landscape kind of change and evolve, but is the need for freelancers growing or is it shrinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's a tough question right now, and I'll say it's a tough question because there are many realities that are impacting our current economy, right? If you look at the latest job reports, you'll see that a lot of companies and a lot of employers have instituted hiring freezes. It's becoming a lot tougher for people to find jobs. So that it's being a lot of companies are and because of that, we're seeing a lot of companies also freezing the amount of freelancers that they're actually hiring and working with. So I think across the board, whether you're working independently or you're working full time, at this current point in time, um, the job market and the economy it looks a little tough. And I think some of the factors that are contributing to that, of course, is the rise of AI, right? I think these AI tools are making it a lot easier for companies to delay hiring anyone to take on certain projects, to take on certain roles. Um, and as AI continues to impact the job market, I think we're gonna see this freeze continue for a while. But my hope is that we're gonna start seeing more regulation around the use of AI. We're gonna hold companies accountable, and people will start getting hired for work again. But historically speaking, freelance work has always been attractive, right? It has been attractive for many reasons. One, of course, I've heard from a lot of our members that it's created opportunities for them to be able to earn higher incomes for themselves and their families. If you're someone with a family, it's lowered the cost of childcare because freelancers were the original work from home community, um, and it really allows folks to also focus on their skill sets, right? So if you were a graphic designer or you're a photographer, you're able to work for companies and clients in whose work you believed in, and work on more projects aligned to what spoke to you. So uh generally speaking, I do believe that there are many benefits of being a freelancer, but when we look at the current realities of the economy, it is a little tough. But my hope that those tides will turn in the near future.
What do you think is the biggest threat to freelancers? You mentioned AI, as one possible, avenue there, but what about AI in comparison to the Elance sites that are out there, like Upwork, Fiverr, Elance, Odesk, where clients post jobs and accept bids from hundreds of people, but typically, like, the client will almost always go with the lowest bid, which can be ridiculously low. Where do you stand with regard to sites like that?
Yeah, I would say, that before AI, before the conversation of AI came up, these websites really were destructive to a freelancer's ability to one to find high quality work, but also pay or also but also find work that it was going to pay fair rates, right? We speak of the concepts of Fiverr and Upwork. You know, they did create a race to the bottom economy where companies are now able to hire folks globally and pay pennies on the dollar. And that had a severe impact on the professional freelancer here in this country. So yes, that has been an issue and it continues to be. But you know, there are younger folks who are just entering the freelance market that do rely on these sites to build experience, to build exposure. So while I think generally they are terrible to to the wage floor and the income floor for the independent worker, I do see opportunities for those who are first starting out. But I do think that we should move away from these platforms and find better actors in that space, right? Because I think freelancers do want to rely on tools that are going to help connect them to job opportunities, but we have to make sure that these tools are not exploiting freelance workers and not exploiting the local economy.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, when they first came out, to me, it sounded like a great idea, right? It helps freelancers get their foot in the door. But then once I saw the reality of it, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This, like you mentioned, it creates this race to the bottom economy. But for those who are just starting out in freelancing and maybe they're not going to use one of those sites, but they're going to try to find clients themselves, how can they vet a potential client before agreeing to work with them? What are some good tips?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to look for the green flags and avoid the red flags, right? Green flags, of course, is a client that is going to agree to your rate and agree to signing a contract to ensure that it's written on paper and it's something you can use in the case where there's a disagreement down the line and you have to ensure you get paid on time. But some of those early red flags, right, that you have to look out for is their communication styles, their expectations, right? How are they communicating with you? And if you feel that their tone is hostile, that their responses to your emails are lagging and not keeping up with the pace of how you perform your work, then that should be, you know, early signs of that you might encounter issues with this client down the line, especially when it comes to, you know, getting paid on time, right? But we encourage every freelancer to come to the table with their own contract that clearly outlines the scope of work, clearly outlines the expectation of what they're going to get paid at the end of the job. But we also encourage folks to ask for the deposit up front, right? I think that if a client agrees to paying a deposit to bringing you on and for you to take on the work, then that itself is a green flag that they're gonna follow through and ensuring you get paid at the end of a job.
Yeah, and I just posted in the chat a link to something that you guys have on your site called the Contract Creator. It protects you with a step-by-step contract creation template here, and this is really easy to use. I love the UX on this. This is really cool. It's at freelancersunion.org/contract, and that's a good starting place, right? To kind of create the scope of work.
We actually launched that just about a year ago. And we've continued to hear from our members how helpful it's been, especially those who are starting out for the first time. You know, to be able to lay out the scope of work. You're also able to create milestones, right? So maybe you can include how often you want to get paid along as long as you hit certain milestones. All the language there has been vetted by our team and our lawyers to ensure that at the end of the day that you're fully protected and it's bulletproof if you encounter any issues with your client.
Talk to me about this legal clinic that you helped create. Since we're talking about lawyers and stuff, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean it's one of our newest offerings, and we launched it this past summer. And if you're an independent worker and you're in need of legal consultation, you can simply send an email to us at advocacy@freelancersunion.org, and your inquiry would be vetted by our team, and we would be able to connect you to a lawyer where you'll have up to four free hours of consultation with our attorney, right? So it's open to anyone, right? So no matter where you're living in the country, as long as you put in that inquiry, we and that lawyer will do everything from reviewing a contract you might have received from a client to helping you organize your paperwork in the case you have to go to small claims court, to helping you understand some intellectual property language that might be in a contract to ensure your work is protected, right? So we encourage anyone just to reach out to us, and it's a free service. We're really happy. It's been working really well. Uh, we're actually currently doing an audit of how much money we were actually able to collect for freelancers and unpaid invoices. And today, I think that number exceeds over $200,000. And we do, and through that legal clinic, we do everything from send demand letters to unresponsive client, to help advocate for you if you're encountering a roadblock with that client as well.
So obviously, yeah, the Freelancers Union is primarily US based, and I know we have a lot of international listeners too. But are there plans to expand this organization to other countries?
It's a hot question. Just someone from Canada just sent us an inquiry a few days ago, wondering if our resources can be expanded globally. I mean, that is the dream, that is the hope. But what we do try to do is ensure that those freelancers one-on-one guides and resource guides that are on our website, that they speak to freelancers no matter where you're living. And I think that independent workers, no matter where they're located in the world, they all have to follow a similar ethos to ensure that they are working with high quality clients, and so that they ensure they're getting paid on time. While the issues may be different, like for example, here in the States, we have to worry a lot about healthcare. While if you're living in the EU, you don't have to worry just as much. I think at the base level, a lot of our resources do translate to folks no matter where you're living in the world.
What's next for freelance protections? Are there new policies or initiatives on the horizon that you're talking about with your colleagues?
Well, here in the States, benefits continues to be a big problem. And currently, in states across the country, there's a huge conversation uh, surrounded around creating a portable benefits model. And portable benefits means a system, of course, in which a gig worker or independent worker can use, where clients will pay into, and what they pay, and when they pay into this portal benefit system, that system can be used by the freelancer to help subsidize the costs of their benefits, like paid time off, like maybe your health plan. And we're seeing these conversations, unfortunately, being led by the gig work app-based companies, right? So, the Door Dashes of the world um, are in states like Tennessee and Alabama, to allow for those companies to pay for benefits for their couriers or their app-based workers. But what I'm finding is that those conversations are more focused on benefiting the corporation and not the worker. But what I do see is an opportunity for us to crack open the conversation and say, this is a worthy conversation to have. How do we now elevate this conversation to ensure that we're creating a benefit system, that actually benefits the worker and helps us solve the bigger problem of connecting independent workers to benefits? So we are currently working with some think tank groups to study the issue and figure out how can we create a model in which, and in my eyes, it'll be a model in which every freelancer would have access to, let's say, let's just call it a digital wallet right now, to a digital wallet that you carry from gig to gig, and every time you work with a client, that client will be incentivized to make a deposit into your wallet, and that wallet could be used to help you subsidize the costs of access to your benefits, right? Um, and the way I would love to see this work is, one, we would incentivize the client to pay for, or make a contribution towards your benefits by giving them a tax break if their contribution is large enough. Uh, Two, allow the freelancer to also contribute to their own wallet, and they will receive a tax break on any contribution they make towards this wallet. And then three, be able to connect those wallets to the most affordable plans that exist out there, so that those funds can have, large bang for their buck, and create a system in which freelancers now are have access to subsidized benefits, and actually have a system that's working for them. Of course, the pie in the sky for us as an organization is to see conversations like Medicare for all or single payer healthcare systems be instituted down the line. Because once we're able to take the conversation around, I guess the discussion around healthcare off the table and ensure that every American has access to healthcare, I think that will help alleviate a lot of the anxieties that freelance workers have.
Yeah, and that is so true. There are a lot of anxieties that we deal with on a daily basis. And one of those is, sometimes you just feel isolated. Um, how can independent workers build community in what's typically a solo career path? I know you have the freelancers hub. Maybe you can explain more of what that is, and how people can get in touch with that.
I think we all can agree that freelancing can be isolating, right? We're all operating and working in silos. You're your own boss, you're your own accountant, you're doing your own HR. But we as an organization believe that in community is where you're actually going to thrive, right? In community, we can ensure that you are not being exploited by a client or a company you're working with. So we've worked really hard to not only create an online community, right? We do host some virtual events that you can attend and connect with fellow freelancers and potentially get access to some educational courses. We've actually worked to create a freelancers hub, which is a free co-working space based in Brooklyn, where you're able to come in, book a free desk, uh, work alongside fellow freelancer union members, but also have access to the freelancer union team. So we're operating there 5 days a week, and if you have any questions, or if you're facing any barriers along your career, there's someone from our team that's there to help consult with you, and provide you with guidance and support in real time. In that space, we also have a free photo studio. We have some editing. We have some editing suites there, right? If anyone wants to work on a film or a commercial, we have those resources there. My favorite part, of course, of that freelancer sub is that we're also able to host networking hours. So we will host some networking happy hours, and that's really a great time to simply hang out, get to know the freelancer union team, but also get to know other freelancers that could potentially help you with your own career as well.
This question just came in the chat from Mickey. Would that ever branch out locally to, like, let's say, the Chicago, Portland area?
I would love that. It's a dream of mine personally. But it does take a lot of work and support, right? I do go out to Chicago periodically. I do go out to Portland, and I try to meet with the city council members there and the mayor's offices there to help us get funding to institute these programs. So, I encourage anyone on this call that would like to see our work expand to your local city to please become a member, and we'll be communicating with you when we decide to take next steps to advocate for these programs to be expanded in other cities. But yes, I would love to see this in Chicago. I'd love to see it in the city of LA. I'd love to be in Portland and Seattle. Name the city. And if you're someone that has access or connections with anyone in local government or with any foundations that'll be willing to provide fundings and grants to create these programs, we're willing to work with you to make that happen.
There you go. And I just dropped a list of events, including virtual ones, there in the chat. It's at freelancersunion.org/events. There's a lot of stuff taking place there. And like Rafael said, become a member, join this organization. That way you can be in the know with all of the exciting updates that they're doing. Rafael, why do you think organizing and collective action among freelancers matter more now than ever before?
Now more than ever, we're seeing a huge shift in the labor workforce and how companies are interacting with workers, right? If you look at the data and you look at the numbers, there are more Americans turning to freelance work, but there's also more Americans being pushed into freelance work because companies are changing how they're hiring folks and who they're working with. A lot of companies are shifting from having full-time employees to now focusing on like project-based work. And when we have so many workers now shifting to independent work, and companies really dictating um, the direction of our economy, we need independent workers to move away from operating in silos to come together as a community to be able to advocate for themselves together, right? We a lot of the wins, a lot of the resources, a lot of the programs we're able to offer is because we've been able to create a unified voice within the independent workforce. So we can't stress the importance of collective action. um, Collective action leads to less exploitation. Collective action leads to changes in policy. And collective action leads to the creation of resources for a workforce that I believe has gone unattended or ignored historically. So I encourage everyone, get involved, plug into what's happening. When we talk about what's happening now with the federal shutdown, a lot of that has to do with the state of healthcare and a lot of and how our healthcare system is currently impacted really impacts the independent worker. So it matters more now than ever for people to get involved.
There's so much taking place behind the scenes. We're not privy to that stuff. Only you are, because you've seen it firsthand, especially going back to your political career, right? You saw a lot. What's that really like working in politics? Is it fun? Is it invigorating? Or is it just draining and miserable? Like, what is that experience like?
Yeah, it's a soup of all those things, right? When I ran for office, I ran because I felt that government wasn't doing enough to speak to the needs of the community that I grew up in, where I'm from, in Brooklyn. And when I ran for office, I had clear goals. I wanted to ensure that the city agencies, that the mayor's office, were addressing needs of my community. Everything from ensuring that that our schools had the best infrastructure, that the folks living in my district had access to high quality jobs and or workforce training, to ensuring that our parks were in amazing condition. And while I was in government, beyond my community, I began to think about what really drove me to get involved politically. And it really is, and I'm really driven by the idea of um, speaking to underserved communities as a whole. And I truly do believe to my core that the creative community, the independent worker community, has been one of those voiceless communities in government. Um, so it's very invigorating when you have a clear goal and a mission. It's very invigorating when you're seeing a lot of the policy you're working on come into fruition and become possible, right? Like when I was able to finally work with the freelancers union while I was in office to create the policy change around non-payment. That was a huge win. It was the first time in our country, or you can even argue in the world, where a protection of such where that such protection was created and now exists. So when you have those wins, it's totally worth it. But it is draining, right? It does take a lot of work, and there are a lot of uphill battles that you take on. But what I've learned is that even when it gets draining, what really keeps the needle moving and what really keeps progress moving forward is when communities get involved, right? So a lot of the work that we were able to accomplish wasn't accomplished because a legislator woke up one morning and said, "I have an idea." It happened because millions of people believe that that idea should become a reality. So uh, it is very draining work, but it's definitely very rewarding, especially when you see people get involved.
So, is there anything to, writing to your local leaders? Because I know we hear about this all the time, write to your local leaders. That's how you can make a difference. But a lot of times with, the younger generation, we think that that's maybe like an older mindset that, nobody checks their letters or their emails anymore. But is that effective? Is writing to your local leaders an effective way to kind of get their attention, to take like an issue and really put it on their radar?
Absolutely. Every elected official is afraid of getting voted out in their next election. And once you get a sense that your constituency is unhappy because you're not speaking on a certain issue, or you're not thinking outside the box to solve a systemic problem, it really lights a fire under you to get involved. So I encourage everyone to reach out, write that letter, write that email, call their offices, because once they hear from you, you're helping plant the seed of what sort of change should happen. Of course, some fights are easier than others, right? Especially when we're looking at the federal government and how complicated that system has been set up. Um, but if you're someone who's living in a district where you're represented by a representative that needs to be motivated to support an issue, hearing from you is extremely important. Uh, I guess going back to the conversation of collective action, right? One email, of course, is helpful, but when they hear from hundreds of people who are aligned on the same issue, it really becomes more difficult for like the leaders to ignore. So get involved and become part of a larger community. And if you're able to align what your needs are, and what changes you hope to see, the bigger the number, the bigger the opportunity to make that change.
Now, if you are new to the Adobe Creative Career Discord, I'd like to take a moment to share one of the coolest things we're working on right now, and that would be the Adobe Creative Apprenticeship Program. This program connects aspiring creative people like you with top creative companies, providing the actual training and experience that you need, which also looks amazing on a resume. Think of it like the ultimate internship meets mentorship opportunity. But wait, that's not all. You see, there is another aspect to the program, and it's called commissioned projects. This is where you can get even more experience working on an actual paid project with Adobe. Yes, that's right, Adobe as your first client. Seriously. The details on the Creative Apprenticeship Program, the commissioned projects, and more incredible career resources can all be found at behance.net/resources. That's behance.net/resources. To learn more about tonight's guest, Rafael Espinal, you can check out his LinkedIn and Instagram. From there, you can connect with him and you can take a look at all of the things that he's working on. There's a direct link to the Freelancers Union website. And if you have a question for Rafael directly, you can message him through Instagram or LinkedIn. But Rafael, how do you prefer people reach out to you? Do you have a preference at all?
I love Instagram. I'm a millennial. It's one of the first apps I open. And it's something I've actually been using since I was in political office, and it's like my favorite way to get in touch with folks one on one, and be able to answer questions and help them with their concerns.
Now, that's really interesting because I always used to think that when political leaders had a social media account, it was always run by like, one of their assistants or one of their, the people within their office. But you actually looked at yours directly, huh?
Yeah, that could be the case. So there may be instances where you're speaking to a staff member, but for me personally, I love having control over my Instagram account, and I just love being able to connect with people directly.
Since we just kind of touched on the commission projects and the creative apprenticeship program, let me ask you, how important is mentorship to you?
For me personally, extremely important. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for people along the way who have mentored me, given me advice, given me that first opportunity, right? I wouldn't have gotten into office if a city council member didn't find value in mentoring me when I first started working for him as a junior employee. Um, and I do believe it's a way to help inspire the next generation of change makers, of workers, of and I found a lot of value on the Adobe apprenticeship program myself personally. I began mentoring this young gentleman from California who just came out of college, and being able to use that opportunity to pass along some of my experiences to him to allow him to find his own path has been rewarding to me personally. But we've also been able to work with an apprentice who is currently NYU and is helping our organization be able to better connect with our constituency through our social media. So she's helping us create engaging reels. Right, just last week she helped us create a reel that has gotten the most engagement we've seen all year. So it really is a two-way street. I think mentorship, having the opportunity to mentor a young person, not only allows me to pass my personal wisdom, but it also allows me to learn from them. What's important to the youth today, and how can I, as an adult, use my positions to help support them in their journeys.
Yeah, I think it's incredible, and I'm so glad that you're one of the professional mentors on the team here as part of this program. Switching gears a little, I hear that you have a short film you're involved with. Why don't you tell me about this?
Yeah, yeah, it's actually me finally being able to find the time to tap into my creative side, something I put away all these years because I've been focused on politics and policy. But I've always had that itch since I was a young person to um work on a film and be able to tell my stories, right? And I began working on a screenplay a little over a year ago and filmed my first short over this past winter. I'm now currently editing that short on Adobe Premiere. Um, I think I'm about 75% done with it, and I'm hoping to get it done before the end of the year so I can submit it to the Tribeca Film Festival. But it's been a rewarding experience where I'm using my passion for filmmaking and the arts, mixing that with my experiences around politics and policy to tell stories that I feel are often underrepresented in 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 uh in in film and media as a whole. So if you'd like to learn more about my film, literally go on my Instagram. I posted some stills, and I hope to be able to share more on some screenings in the next few weeks.
That's incredible. Yeah, because when I went on your Instagram, I saw a link to the GoFundMe link that you have there for Dolores the Short. That's the name of it? Is it just called Dolores, or is it Dolores the Short?
Yeah, it's called Dolores, and it's a story that I'm telling to help frame creative, like using film, tell the story of how our system, the way it's currently designed, helps create division and separation, right? So we're tracking this woman who is trying to navigate the system to reconnect with her son, while she does has responsibilities to help her neighbors because she's a tenant association president of this building. She's so distracted through the bureaucracy of trying to reconnect with her son that she's gone and now ignoring the needs of her neighbors to a point where those distractions create further divisions and in this story, unfortunately, to chaos.
Oh boy. It's got to be chaos. That's part of the drama, right?
Right, exactly. You do need drama in order to tell an interesting story.
Do you have any other films completed that we can see?
No, this is actually gonna be my first one. I used my passion for filmmaking to actually direct and write my political commercials. So you can find some ads I made for myself when I was running for higher office, that I did direct, and I worked with a team to produce.
these political commercials, they're not the negative ones that we hear that we are subjected to every season, like right now, are they?
No, no, no. I hope they tell a positive story about my work and why I hope why I'm the right candidate to lead in local office.
That's great. That I wish more political people would do commercials like that, actual, commercials that talk about what they're standing for.
I think we're living in a time where we want to feel hope, right? And we want to see candidates that are thinking, who are forward thinking and have the needs of everyday working people in mind. I think we're seeing this in candidates. I think if you're living in New York City and if you're feeling hopeful, uh, given that we now have a new mayoral candidate named Zohar Mamdani who focuses a lot of his messaging on hope and serving working people. I think there's a lot to be feel hopeful for, but I really do hope that that's the direction that candidates start moving in, right? How do we shift the narrative from throwing mud and talking about how terrible things are, but then and focus more on about how do we create solutions that are going to serve people.
Absolutely. Amen to that one. So, and to those of you in the audience who aren't aware, like we mentioned earlier, Rafael is a filmmaker. He studied film and creative writing at Queens College. So he's got that background. So don't think of him as just somebody who's representing the Freelancers Union, but think of him also as a creative ally. So especially if you're working in video and video editing and you need some feedback on a project or just some guidance, send him a message. Hopefully he respond. I know he'll respond, but hopefully he'll have time in his busy day to respond. But let's shift gears then to Adobe Premiere, since you mentioned that you work within that program extensively. Are there any creative shortcuts or tools or advice that you've learned about that program that might be able to help others as they're going about their video editing?
Well, I'm actually just I'm reorienting myself, right? For the I've because I haven't really done much filmmaking in the past 10, 15 years. I'm relearning the program, but I've been impressed by a lot of the progress I've seen for the past 15 years. And I think more so now, just the ability to further work with, the raw footage that you shoot and be able to manipulate your shots to get your desired look or be able to extend, I know these new AI features that allow you to extend certain clips if you end up cutting too early. I think it's all great. It's all exciting to see, and like a lot of folks, I'm relearning how to use these tools, but um, I would say a lot of the new AI features that help you manipulate images that you're probably weren't too happy with on production to be able to go on post and adjust those clips, I think has been extremely helpful, especially when you're on a pinch.
What's the one thing you wish lawmakers and employers better understood about today's freelance workforce?
It's a good question, and I think that there's still a lot of work to do to um, educate lawmakers and employers that freelancers are in a niche, right? They are the backbone of the economy, right? Currently, over 70 million Americans freelance, and they do everything from building brands, to designing products, producing films, and work on software development and coding to help keep companies alive and to help companies further their own brand and mission. So they deserve, I think, more attention and more respect than they have historically. They deserve to get paid on time, or they deserve to have access to benefits and really affordable, if not free, healthcare. So lawmakers, I think have to come to a point where they have to stop treating them like exceptions and start treating them like the future of our country's economy. And employers have to see them as partners in their companies, right? Not disposable labor. So I think that if we're able to get to that point, and if we get this right, we can create an economy that works for everyone, not just the people at the top, but also the person who's working for themselves.
And again, people can get involved with the Freelancers Union by going to freelancersunion.org. You can take advantage of all the resources there. Sign up, become a member. It's free. There's no catch. They're not going to, come after you and demand a membership fee. It's incredible stuff. I highly encourage the rest of you to take a look at this, freelancersunion.org. Is there anything else that you want to talk about, Rafael, as we're closing up shop here? Anything else that you want to mention?
No, this was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to hearing from people who have tuned in. I'm at my best when I'm able to help and serve and help people troubleshoot their problems. So see me as a resource. Feel free to reach out to us as an organization, but if you want to have a one-on-one, I'm more than happy to do that.
How about that? That is amazing stuff. Well, that about wraps it for this episode of Spotlight Sessions. I'd like to thank my guest, Rafael Espinal, for joining us tonight and discussing his incredible career journey and the Freelancers Union. Be sure to connect with him on LinkedIn, Instagram, or at freelancersunion.org. And if you enjoyed this program, catch all the latest updates for the next Spotlight Sessions and all the exciting content we have here in the Adobe Creative Career Discord by following the upcoming events calendar at the top of the server so you can see what's coming next. I want to thank my new producer, Catherine Chu, Lisa Temple, live moderator, Elizabeth, and the entire Adobe crew for sponsoring this program and helping to bring it alive. And thank you, Discord community. And to everyone who tuned in to listen to me, your host, Justin Bamforth. You can always catch me on Discord, LinkedIn, or my website at justinbamforth.com. Until next time, everyone, take care. For more conversations with creative professionals, subscribe to the Spotlight Sessions podcast or check out the Adobe Creative Career Discord. Links are posted in the show notes.